Welcome back, everybody, to the Cleveland Cavaliers MyNBA series here on NBA 2K21 for the PlayStation 5. Today, we're going to be rounding out the rest of the offseason. Of course, last episode was the NBA draft. If you missed it, I'll leave a card at the top right of your screen because, well, you're probably going to want to check that out before watching this video. So last episode, we entered the draft with the 23rd pick and selected point guard Jason Higgins-Whitecraft out of Villanova, a guy who's going to be a major contributor for us off the bench this year as a rookie. I thought about possibly moving up into the first round. I possibly thought about adding some second-round picks, but I decided to stay with pick 23 and get the guy who I was really targeting all along. I had tried to move up a few spots just to secure that we would get him. I was not able to make a deal with those teams, but we still ended up getting him at 23, so it really worked out perfectly. This draft class is obviously very, very talented. A lot of good players entering the NBA, and I'm very curious to see what happens in a lot of these players' careers. But now that the focus is off of the draft, it's time to talk about free agency, and that starts with team and player options. We have a lot of guys on team options this year. Pretty much half of our roster almost is on a team option. We also have a few key players who are not under contract at all for next season, including Kevin Porter Jr., Cam Reddish, and Nasir Little. Those guys we're going to be talking about in a little bit. So let's go to the team option stage. We will be accepting almost everybody in here except for Grant Houston. The game suggested that we bring back those top four guys, which I'm going to do. We're also going to accept Isaiah Thomas. So Grant Houston was a throw-in in a trade deadline deal last year. He didn't play. We just don't need him. But the other five guys I do want to bring back. Not really a tough decision. There were not a ton of guys who had player options around the league. The biggest name was Kristaps Porzingis, who declined his. That would be an interesting pickup for us for sure, but obviously he will be commanding top dollar considering he declined a $36 million option. But most of these players are just young guys on their rookie deals getting their team options accepted. There were a few young players who got theirs declined. I think former Cavalier first-round pick Romeo LaGuancho got his declined by the Celtics. But other than that, nothing really notable. Looking at the qualifying offers, we can offer these to our restricted free agents. We have four, three of whom are very important, including Cam Reddish. I do not want Cam Reddish to go. He's a very important piece to our team, along with Kevin Porter Jr. as well. I don't want him going anywhere either. Porter and Reddish have similar roles. I don't think they're both going to be here long term, but for next year, I would like to hold on to those guys. We're also going to give the qualifying offer to Nasir Little. He's not as much of a priority as Reddish or Kevin Porter Jr., but I would like to bring Little back if I could. I will not be extending the qualifying offer to Taco Fall. I know this goes against the memes, but he is not my priority at the moment. So this is a really good free agency class, headlined by some really good players, including Joel Embiid, Zion Williamson, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Kristaps Porzingis, Malcolm Brogdon. I mean, a lot of really good players, a lot of really good unrestricted players as well. So, I mean, there are guys down the board who we really could consider. The name who popped out to me originally was Zion Williamson. This should not be a surprise. Williamson's one of the best young players in the NBA. Don't mind that it says he played for the Hawks for a year. Obviously, that's not true. But I would love to bring Zion in. He is restricted. I imagine the Pelicans are going to match whatever offer he gets. And because of that, guys, don't get your hopes up. We're probably not going to get Zion. But you miss every shot you don't take. So I decided to simulate the stage with him being the only player we went after, and he does accept. This does not mean we are getting him. The Pelicans will still have the opportunity to match it, and as we would simulate forward, we would get the news that the Pelicans have matched the offer sheet. We gave him the maximum possible. I figured the Pelicans would match it. I didn't really get overly excited. So going into stage 2, now we get to restart. The Zion's off the market. I really thought about Joel Embiid. This is one I considered for a while, and I wasn't really sure. However, I have decided not to at the moment. And before we get back to free agency, I actually wanted to look at the trade market real quick. I wanted to possibly make a trade before we really signed anyone big, and the name who stuck out to me as a guy who I would like is Magic center Isaiah Stewart. Is this my Pistons fan bias? Absolutely it is. However, Isaiah Stewart's a gritty center. He's a tough, high-motor player who I'd love to get. The trade finder options didn't really interest me. I don't really want to give up Big Fafa or a copy of Dioi if I don't have to. But if we were to get a guy like Isaiah Stewart, I probably wouldn't want to carry 3 centers on the roster. I also wanted to look at power forwards in the trade finder, or I guess the player finder, because, well, I think power forwards really are our only hole. There were a few names who stuck out to me, including Pascal Siakam. The Raptors won 10 games last year. Maybe they'll just try to go with an all-out rebuild and possibly move Siakam. I also looked at Jaren Jackson Jr., who I think is one of the best young players. He really fits the modern NBA super well. Siakam is a lot more likely because he's older, he's worse, and he's on a bad team. But I figured it was worth a shot to try to get Jaren Jackson, and yeah, things really didn't work. I tried a 3-team deal that would give us Jackson and Stewart. It wasn't happening. I tried something with the Raptors to get Siakam and Isaiah Stewart. Again, wasn't happening. So I decided to back off the trades for the moment and go back to the free agency class. I did some digging, and I came across Myles Turner, who I think would be a really nice fit for us at the power forward position. He's a stretch big man who plays really good defense. Defense is definitely his best asset, and he's one of the most underrated defensive players in the NBA. So I've decided to give him a 1-year contract for $16 million. I don't want to invest long-term in him, but I do think he could be the missing piece that we need. Turner would end up accepting the offer. The only problem is we would have to renounce the rights on Nasir Little, which I didn't really want to do. However, after thinking about it, I think it would be worth it to get Myles Turner. Turner's a little bit better than Nasir Little. That's just how it is. I would have loved to have brought back Little, but I think Myles Turner is just a better fit for what we're looking for right now. And unless we make a really big move for a star power forward, he'll probably be our starting power forward next year. So the next move I decided to do was I put Farek Nwora in the trade finder. Nwora is a very interesting player. We selected him 6th overall last year, and things just didn't really work out. He got injured very early into the season. I just don't think he's a great fit for us. He's a raw player who's a good scorer, but he's not great other than that. And I just don't think he really fits what I'm looking for right now. I want well-rounded players who can do a lot of different things well. And with his early season injury, I think that really hurt his progression trajectory. So I'm going to be trading him to the Oklahoma City Thunder. I think the Thunder are a great fit for him because he'll be able to start, he'll be able to get plenty of touches, and I think this is a better opportunity getting 30 minutes per game on a bad team than getting 15 minutes per game on a good team. So this is the current trade. We could get 3 first-round picks, but we would have to give up Zion Hopkins. I don't think that's realistic. I don't think the Thunder would do that, and I prefer not to trade Hopkins. So I'm going to try to add Isaiah Thomas instead. Obviously, we're not going to get 3 first-round picks, but we are going to try to get 2. Again, it doesn't work, and they are going to offer us the Miami Heat's first-round pick next year for a Spurs swap best pick in the future. I don't know why Oklahoma City would do this. We're getting the better pick. I think this trade is pretty unrealistic. I don't think we would get this much. So I just decided to do this trade because Oklahoma City is being weird. And then I re-swapped the Miami Heat pick for the future Spurs pick. I understand the Miami Heat pick is better, but I don't think the Thunder would trade 2 first-round picks for a questionable, risky player in Farek Nwora. I'm a little bit sad to see Nwora go, but I do think he has a really bright future. I'm excited to see what he does in OKC. So we now have 3 first-round picks going into next year. That doesn't even include the Miami Heat pick. We have our own pick, we have Washington's pick, and now we have OKC's pick. So that brings us back to the Orlando Magic and Isaiah Stewart. I would still love to get Stewart. I'm trying a 3-team deal with the Thunder that would also give us Draymond Green. We will be giving up a Dioi and a future first-round pick. Both sides would say no, although I do feel we are pretty close. So I decided to change it up and go with the Pistons instead. We would send a copy of Dioi to Detroit. We would get Isaiah Stewart and a future first-round pick. The Magic would also be given Evan Fournier. The Pistons are willing to do that, but Orlando's not. So I've decided to add an extra pick to Orlando. Still the Pistons will, and the Magic still say no. I keep trying, and they're just refusing. I keep making it better for Orlando. As you notice, they're saying that it makes them weaker at shooting guard, which is odd because Evan Fournier would start at shooting guard. So I just decided to move him to small forward. And now they say they're set at small forward. So Orlando's just being really weird and budgy. Now I'm giving them the better of the 2 picks that were in the deal, and they're still saying no. This feels like an overpay on the Pistons' part at this point. I've added another first-round pick, and now both teams say no. So this is just not going to happen. The Magic are just being way too stingy. So we don't have to get Isaiah Stewart. I'm comfortable with keeping Okapi Adeoye into next season, and I'm okay with having Adeoye, Yusuf Diafafafobo, and Miles Turner as our front court. I just wanted to see if I could try to get Isaiah Stewart. I mean, he's not that much of an upgrade to Okapi Adeoye. If anything, you could argue he's a little bit worse. So at this stage of the offseason, we have most of our roster really finalized. I don't think I'm going to be making any other major trades, but I do want to sign some bench warmers and some possible G Leaguers, with the first one being point guard Amos Clearwater. The next guy I like is Rob Francis McNair, a 6'6 shooting guard. We're pretty much just looking for young players who can be G Leaguers and hope that maybe 1 or 2 of these guys can be rotation pieces in the future. The next one is a name you might recognize, Boris Wagenknecht. If you remember, we selected Boris in the 2nd round a few years back. He was in Europe for a year. Last year, he was with the Warriors. Things just aren't really working out. He's not that great of an NBA player, it looks like. Rob Francis McNair would accept after that day, and the other 2 are still mulling their offers. We're going to go after some more buy low overall players, including former first-round pick Tyreek Lockwood, formerly of the Thunder. Undrafted free agent Hamzat Al-Bukhajali is another player we are going to offer. That's a very fun name to say. Hopefully this guy makes the final roster and can make an impact, just so I can yell, Hamza Al-Bukhajali, multiple times per game, because I would enjoy that. The last player we're going to be offering is Kareem Ugumike, a former 2nd-round pick of the Knicks, another guy who just never really developed, but he's never missed a shot in his NBA career. He has a career field goal percentage of 1,000. So all of those low-level players we offered would eventually accept. They accepted at different times, but they all eventually did. So now that we're in the middle of the free agency, the focus has shifted to our restricted guys. Kevin Porter Jr. and Cam Reddish have not gotten a ton of interest around the league. Porter has not gotten any offers, and Reddish has just gotten a couple small ones that he hasn't really taken seriously. I simulated forward to day 12, and neither Porter or Reddish got any new offers, so it looks like both of them will be back on the qualifying. I did not want to give them a long-term contract yet, but I am happy that they will both be returning. Let's look around the league, see where some of the bright stars are going, including Joel Embiid, signing with the Atlanta Hawks. The rich get richer. The Hawks have already been one of the best teams in the NBA, and now they add Joel Embiid. The Embiid and Trae Young pick and pop is going to be scary. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander signs with the Pacers. Indiana is one of the best young teams in the NBA. Of course, Cassius Calvin and Jeremiah Okoye, a pair of former number 1 overall picks, along with Domantas Sabonis. This Pacers team is really good. They did lose a lot of rotational pieces, though. Malcolm Brogdon is now a Rocket. TJ Warren is not signed anywhere else, but he's gone. And of course, we signed Miles Turner. So they lost 3 rotation guys, but they did get a star in SGA. Paul George is a Piston. Nikola Vucevic replaces Joel Embiid in Houston. Clint Capella is a Clipper. Kevin Love is a Charlotte Hornet. Josh Richardson going to the Lakers. Kevin Huerter signs with the Clippers. Lonnie Walker and Jackson Hayes both signed with the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors have had a really good offseason. I understand that they were a really bad team last year, but they're doing a good job of building up their future. So we officially simulated forward, and indeed, Kevin Porter Jr. and Cam Reddish both accepted their qualifying offers, as we expected would happen. So that brings us to the player progression stage. Odavius Shepherd goes up 5 rating points. He is now a 91 overall, still at just 19 years old. Man, he is good. KPJ goes up 2. Garrett goes up 2. One of the bigger surprises is Mamadou Anechiunia going up 5 rating points, up to a 79. That is really good to see. Jason Higgins-Wycraft, who has not played a game, he went up 2 ratings. Rookies don't normally get better. Not going to complain, but that's odd. Zion Hopkins III got worse. Usually when players go in the G League, they get a lot better, but he was just so pissed off to be in the G League. He got worse. I don't really know how that happens, but oh well. So for the Summer League, this is what the roster is looking like. I didn't really have a ton of control over it. I don't think Cedric Garrett, Yusuf Diafafafobo, or Okapi Adeoye need the Summer League, and I would have liked to have seen Jason Higgins-Wycraft, but oh well. The main stars on the Summer League team this year who are actually getting minutes will be Zion Hopkins III and Mamadou Anachiunia. A lot of those low-rated younger free agents will also be getting summertime experience, which I think is good for them. So we're going to simulate the Summer League regular season, and as you can see, it's kind of hard to find us. But we are the 4 seed. We ended up doing pretty well, and we have our first playoff game against the Phoenix Suns. I don't think the Phoenix Suns have used a first-round pick in like 3 years, so I'm not surprised if this team isn't great. We ended up winning by 13. Zion Hopkins was our best player. He scored 22 points. And now in the second round, we have the Boston Celtics. It would be nice to get a little small taste of revenge after our playoff defeat last year, but they ended up winning by 29. Zion Hopkins dropped 27, though. That's cool, but only 6 points for Mamadou Anachiunia. I would have wished he would have been better. Looking at the final Summer League stats, Zion Hopkins was noticeably better than Mamadou, which really surprised me. Zion Hopkins is definitely going to get NBA minutes next year. I don't know if it'll be at the beginning of the season, but this Summer League performance from him was very encouraging. The Timberwolves end up beating the Pistons in the Summer League Championship, so congratulations to Minnesota. For the first time in your franchise's existence, you won something. The Timberwolves have a beautiful shining trophy case with the 2023 Summer League Championship right in the middle of it. So for the All-Star City, it was originally Detroit. As a Pistons fan, that'd be cool. I'm not from Detroit, though, so it's not that exciting. But I ended up changing it to Cleveland. Why? Because why not? I felt like it. We only have one training camp, and I figured a realistic one that made sense was putting Odavius Shepherd in the weight camp. He is still built like a ramen noodle, but this does help him. He has gained 9 pounds. He goes from 180 to 189. If we put him in this training camp again next year, he might reach 200. He also gets a little bit stronger as well, which is pretty useful. So entering the season, we have 17 players on the roster. We can only have 15, so we're going to have to cut 2. I'm going to be releasing Boris Wagenknecht and Tyreek Lockwood. So those guys will be, unfortunately, getting released. And I will be making one small edit. I'm going to make Miles Turner's secondary position power forward because that's mainly where he's going to be playing this season. This is what the rotation will look like to start this season. The starting lineup will be Shepherd, Sexton, Garrett, Turner, and Diafafa-Fobo. The bench will feature Kevin Porter Jr., Cam Reddish, Okapi Adioye, Jason Higgins-Whitecraft, and Mamadou Anachiunia. Again, I plan on getting Zion Hopkins a lot of NBA minutes this year, but I don't really know exactly when. So that will conclude today's episode. Let me know what you think of our offseason in the comments below. Next time will be opening day against the Boston Celtics. I am excited to play them. Hopefully we can get our actual revenge on them. They not only eliminated us from the NBA playoffs, but more importantly, they eliminated us from the Summer League playoffs. I know, tragic. So I would love to go into the season and beat the team who eliminated us last year. Hope you guys enjoyed. Hope you guys are ready for that. I'm out. Peace.